What's happening, people? What you need, you're watching my channel. Hope everybody's doing well. It's a really hot night tonight. Just finished eating. Just sitting back, relaxing a little bit. GFunky, man. My dude, what's up, GFunky? I haven't really talked to you in a while. I'll talk to you a little bit about what you said about great fighters not being great trainers. And you use your analog with Michael Jordan in the NBA. First of all, there's a little bit of difference with Mayweather. Okay? Mayweather comes from a tradition, the Mayweathers. There are three brothers who boxed. It was Roger, Floyd Mayweather Sr., and Jeff Mayweather. Okay? But these three brothers, after they finished boxing, they started training. Floyd is a descendant of these three boxers. Father got him into boxing. And as a result, he became a better boxer than they did. Now consider this, because I know you didn't think about this fact. He's also, in the tradition of the Mayweathers, a descendant of the Mayweather trainers. Each one of the Mayweather trainers has been a great trainer. So it only goes to reason, my friend, that Floyd Mayweather will be a great trainer. So I think his situation is a little different to other situations. All right. So if he says he wants to follow and continue the tradition of training, it's because there's a little bit of difference with Floyd. I'm gonna say a couple of things to GFunky about Floyd. I think a lot of you guys do not understand. Floyd Mayweather comes from stock that know boxing. Roger Mayweather knew the history of boxing. Roger Mayweather would say, most people don't know shit about boxing because Roger Mayweather knew boxing and he knew the history of boxing. He knew all about boxing. That was one of Floyd's teachers. Floyd Mayweather Sr. has exhaustive information on boxing. He trained his son in the style that predominantly he uses, even though he uses several other styles. And Jeff Mayweather, the defensive whiz, to this day is training fighters. And just recently there, I just saw him in a gym, in a video, and he's training fighters, okay? Vidal Riley right now is his latest one that we see. My point is, he comes from a lineage. He has three uncles that trained, the same three uncles that boxed, trained. He's been soaking all that shit up. Okay, and then the difference between Floyd and other fighters is he knows exactly what he's doing in the ring. He understands the teachings behind what he's doing. He's not doing anything. Andre Berter just recently in a video, go check out his video, showed that Floyd practices every skill set he does. And he knows when to use his skill set, how to use it, and where to use it. So this is not a guy that just came fly by night into boxing. Sugar Ray Robinson, was a great fighter, but nobody in his family actually boxed. Okay. Sugar Ray Leonard was a great fighter, but nobody in his family actually boxed as far as I know. However, when you come from a family of boxers, it's different. You have a different kind of pedigree. Vasily Lomachenko's father used to box. Sean Porter's father used to box. You see what I'm saying? Help me out here. Right? Devin Haney's father never used to box. Devin Haney knows none of his family members used to box. Okay, so he's like the first of his lineage. So you have to understand this before you start talking about whether Mayweather will be successful with Gervonta. Obviously, he's having an effect on Gervonta Davis. And I looked at the training sessions and I realized he was spouting knowledge. Okay? Now, as to the weight class that Gervonta Davis will be facing Leo Santa Cruz, just by simple deductive reason, it's 130 because 2 belts are on the line. Think about Donnie Lalonde versus Sugar Ray Leonard. There were 2 belts on the line, 168 and 175. You can only have 2 belts on the line if the fighter has to come in at the lower weight. Gervonta Davis has a regular WBA championship belt. That's what he fought Yorkis Gamboa for. Vasily Lomachenko has the super championship. And if I'm not mistaken, Leo Santa Cruz has the regular WBA super featherweight belt. So Gervonta has the regular WBA lightweight belt, and I believe that Leo Santa Cruz has the regular 130 or super featherweight belt. Okay, I do not know there's a super championship there, but those I believe are WBA belts. So that's why the 2 belts are on the line. You can go look at several people. You can look at what's his name? Kid Chocolate, not Peter Quillen. Kid Chocolate, the real Kid Chocolate. He had 2 belts. I think he had the the junior lightweight belt, and I believe he had the featherweight belt, something like that. Another guy who had 2 belts. So you have to understand, you can fight at one weight class or you have to fight at another weight class, but you cannot get a belt if you don't fight in that weight class. So Gervonta Davis has to come in at 130 pounds for that fight. Okay? Now, having said that, the question is, can he make weight? Right? That's what everybody wants to know. Can he make the weight? You are saying that he can't. Coach Calvin is saying he can't. Right? He can go as low as 126 pounds. So Coach Calvin, who is his coach, who's his trainer, who will be training him for this fight, Floyd Mayweather is not training him. He's getting him in shape, losing weight, and teaching him certain precepts, certain little skills, techniques, tricks to boxing and perfect. And then he has to work on perfecting them. Okay? Floyd Mayweather doesn't do nothing on the fly. It's stuff he's worked on and perfected. There's a difference. Andre Ward and Floyd Mayweather, they had God gifting, speed, quickness, all of that. But then the skills, they sharpened them. They don't do nothing by guess in that squared circle. And that's the difference between guys who fight off of intuition and guys who fight with understanding. All right? If you've ever been in a martial arts class of any kind, you learn how to proceed, especially if you're street fighting, you learn how to street fight properly. You understand, you get the understanding of what you're about to do, and then you get the moves. And you learn the variations of the moves if you have a fundamental understanding of what you're really trying to do. In boxing, there's something called a game plan. That will give you the fundamental understanding of what you're trying to do in the fight. And then from there, you're also going to go a little deeper, and you're going to actually look at, how am I going to get there? What skills am I going to bring to the table? What things I'm going to do? You're not going to know that until you face your opponent, obviously. But everything you're doing is rehearsed. Nothing you're doing is something you're just doing for the first time on the fly or something like that. But the things that you rehearse, you can do them in different sets, different combinations, different ways of doing them. And that's where it goes. Okay? But the understanding is always there. That's why at the end of the fight, you hear Floyd break down what he saw with the fighter, what they were good at, and he will explain to you what he did and how he approached the fight if you've been listening to him. So you got to listen to Floyd. You guys don't listen to Floyd. You guys don't understand this dude. I realize that. You think he fights a certain way. You think he's an intuitive fighter. There's intuition in there, obviously. But he knows exactly what he's doing while he's intuitively doing it. There's a difference. That's with somebody who uses smarts and not just IQ. They're in a whole other level because smarts is active assessment of things. Floyd's constantly assessing things, constantly looking and observing things. And then he gives his body a directive of what he's going to do, understanding the game plan and understanding what he's setting up his opponent to do. That's why it's called chess, not checkers. This is not just I'm running on autopilot and I'm instinctively trying to figure out things. No. Okay. So that's the difference. He's been taught, but he's also from a family of teachers. I would know because I come from a family of teachers myself. Gnosis and knowledge is my thing. So you have to understand that he's not just your average fighter. Okay? He's not your average fighter. That's why Floyd is kind of like a guy who can do many different things. He's a promoter. He's a businessman. He's a trainer, and he's also a boxer. And he's getting into it. He's getting his feet wet, but he knows what it is. He knows the knowledge. Now he has to learn how to convey it across to the next generation and get them to connect with him. So that's what he's doing with Tank now. He's starting to work with Tank. And he wants to get Tank familiar with him because he wants to hands-on shape and mold Tank to be better than him. So he's putting gems in Tank's head. Okay, even though Coach Calvin's going to be doing the game plan, he wants to right now, Floyd just wants to download everything he knows about boxing into every single generation. He just recently watched a video. He's running and he's got all these sets of young fighters running with him. And some of them are not even professional fighters. They're not even amateurs, but they're just running with him. And he wants to share now. He's accomplished everything, and now he wants to give back. He really wants to give back, and that's what you're seeing. All right? And when he says he wants to be the greatest trainer ever, he's going to exactly what he said. He's serious about it. He's going to go after it. He knows that it takes time, but he knows this game really, 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 really well. He knows the game really, really well. So anyway, that's what I got to say. Now, where I agree with you 100%, GFunky. And I don't want to let this video go too long. I'll probably take 2 more minutes, okay? Is Leo Santa Cruz is not a joke. This is not a guy Tank can just blitz out of there. And I don't think that's going to happen at all. Leo Santa Cruz is a guy that went through Carl Frampton, Abner Mares, okay? Listen to the quality of guys I'm talking about. These are not joke guys, okay? So Leo Santa Cruz knows a thing or two about champion and being at the championship level in a certain level of championship fighting. Carl Frampton is going to have his fight very recently. So when you said that Leo Santa Cruz, this is going to be a hell of a pay-per-view. It's going to be a hell of a fight. Leo Santa Cruz has never been in a boring fight, first of all. Second of all, this is a fight Leo's wanted. So I'm telling y'all now, Tank has got to be in A+++ shape at 130 pounds on the scale. And that's why you see Tank early getting in shape. And you hear Floyd Mayweather also breaking down certain things to him. Another thing you need to about Tank is he's not just a power puncher. Tank can box. Go watch him in the amateurs. He fighting guys 3-4 times bigger than him. And he's finding his way around that ring. He's boxing on the back foot and still tattooing those guys and still boxing. Okay, so Tank is not what you think he is. He's not just this power puncher. He's not a Deontay Wilder. Tank has incredible skills. And if Tank can't get Leo out of there, he's going to box him. He's going to box him. All right. The only thing he needs to come in is nothing short than the best shape of his life. He'll need to be that because Leo's been doing this consistently. Leo is consistent. He's always in shape and he's always ready to go. And he can adjust and he can make adaptations. Floyd was just breaking down, and also Elena Ellaby. They want to sort of put things in Tank so that he can take away certain tools that Leo will bring to the table. And Leo's a guy that can box on the front foot or the back foot. And technically and fundamentally speaking, he is sound. So when you said Leo Santa Cruz is no joke, I already knew this when I saw the fight. A lot of people were saying, why don't he fight a lightweight? Why don't he fight David Haney or Lomachenko? I'm like, listen. PBC fighter. Leo's a PBC fighter. This fight gonna make a ton of money. And if y'all overlooking Leo Santa Cruz, I hope Tank isn't doing that. And we realize Tank is not overlooking Leo Santa Cruz. He got some weight still to lose, but he got to lose it the right way, as Leonard Ellerby saying, and they're working on making sure he loses the weight the right way. Coach Calvin going to have a nice game plan to deal with Leo Santa Cruz. They're banking on Leo not being able to take Tank's power. That's not going to happen. Leo's going to be able to take Tank's power. I'm going to tell you why. Leo's going to be sparring guys much bigger than Tank to get used to Tank's power. You think these guys just go in the ring for no reason? Leo's going to be prepared. So I absolutely believe that Leo Santa Cruz will be ready for Gervonta Tank Davis when that fight comes around. So Tank is going to have to resort to things, and he's going to have to take away things from Leo to get the advantage in that fight, because Leo is a volume puncher, and Tank is going to have to make Leo slow down some to be able to win that fight. And there are different ways, and the perfect person for that is Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather knows how to do that. So the advice that he's getting from Floyd is good advice. First of all, Tank has a lot more gifting than Leo does, and he's much more skilled than Leo, but Tank has still got to bridge that gap in terms of consistency in how he approaches fights. So he's a great guy. Tank's a great guy, great representation of Baltimore, but Tank needs to, first and foremost, before he even tries to do anything, he needs to make sure his conditioning is on point and he's consistent in whatever he's doing. It's not just going to blitz Leo out of there, because Leo has some defense. And I just don't think that fight I think it's going to be a hell of an exciting fight. I would like to see how, but it's going to be a hell of an exciting fight because Leo has volume. And if Tank can tame Leo's volume, he's really going to have, and get some control over that fight. He can really win that fight. Probably by points, maybe by late stoppage, or maybe by dropping Leo at least once, maybe. But it could easily go the opposite way. Leo could eat him alive. So it's a very, very good fight. Tank versus Lomachenko is also a very interesting fight, but we may have to wait a little bit for that fight to happen. Miguel Barashelt versus Tank's a good fight. I mean, there's a lot of good fights out there for Tank. But first and foremost, he has to get past Leo Santa Cruz. So we'll see if he can do that. And once he gets past Leo Santa Cruz, and how he does it, how he performs as well, will determine if how his next pay-per-view will be. But if it's a hell of a fight, and it turns out to be like a hell of a fight, or a Tank domination, or something with an exclamation point, that it's going to be a fight that the door's going to open up for Tank. So we'll see how Tank, what kind of performance he puts on against Leo Santa Cruz. But I just wanted to tell you in advance, I'm not sleeping on none of them. I'm not sleeping on Tank. I'm not sleeping on Leo. I think it's going to be a hell of a fight. I don't know who's going to win per se. I'm not going to put my finger on it. Everybody's favoring Tank, but I'm not going to say anything yet till they get closer to fight time, and then I'll tell you who I think is going to win that fight. Tank's probably going to be after the scaling and everything, and he comes in the next day. He's probably the bigger dude, but that don't mean nothing if you really. Boxing is not just about, there's a certain limit to size, but boxing is not really about size. Tank's going to have to be fit and ready and just able and box his ass off, and Leo will need to do the same thing. And we get a pretty good fight. Tank need to tighten up his defense, make sure he don't get hit as easily. Also, if Tank can dictate the fight, this is the key with Tank. With Leo, it's the same thing. Leo has the longer reach. He's taller. So all of that works in Leo's favor. Can Leo use those things to help dictate the fight? Because Leo can work at a certain pace. Tank, not as much that pace. Tank's a kind of staccato fighter. So we'll see how it all pans out in the end. If somebody's backing Leo, good for the people who back Leo. People who back in Tank, I mean, good for y'all. You want to back Tank? I'm not going to back anybody yet. I got to see how Tank looks and Leo looks in about a month's time, when the fight's going to be rolling around. I think it's a month after that, October the 3rd, something like that. So we're going to see then. I'll be able to make a judgment call on Tank versus Leo. Anyway, that's my response to you, GFunky. And just remember those things, because I think a lot of you guys don't really factor in certain things when you're talking about certain fighters. And I thought I'd bring up those points. Leo Santa Cruz is a hell of a fighter. Okay, and a lot of people say, "Oh, he ducked this one." And listen, man, he's a hell of a fighter. And Gary Russell Jr. is a hell of a fighter, and Terrence Crawford's a hell of a fighter. So and Kell Brooks is a hell of a fighter. You know what I mean? We're gonna talk more about those things in time. But Tank versus Leo is gonna be a hell of a fight, and hopefully there'll be at least some crowds in there, and the pay-per-view. That's a hell of a dynamite pay-per-view fight. I think a lot of people just, I don't know why, but they overlooking Leo Santa Cruz. They forgot what kind of fights he's brought to the table, and he's got a lot of experience, more experienced fighter than Tank. So, and they're preparing him, and he's going to be ready. And this is a fight he wanted. He's going to be ready for Tank. He's going to be ready for Tank like nobody's business, and he don't have problems making weight and all of that. So, it's going to be a great fight. It's going to be a great fight. I can't wait for it, but we're going to have to wait for it. All right. I'm what you need. GFunky. That one's for you. Peace. Oh, you can speed up the video if you haven't. Peace.